Katoa, hello everyone, welcome. I will ask Tame up to give us a mihi and a karakia. Thank you.
Tēnā tātou katoa e huitahi nei I tēnei rangi. Anu I te mihi atu kia koutou. I roto I tēnei wāhi kōrero I ngā kaupapa o te wā. E pāna kia tātou. E pāna kia rātou. Pāna ki te tāone nui o kirikiri roa. Tēnei te mihi aro a kia koutou. Koutou e hāpai ngā koko ki muri. E ngā mahi. Ngā kaikauni hira nei tēnei te mihi atu kia koutou hoke. E hara mai nei, tāna te mihi atu. E mihi ana ki te manu kāhui, o te kauni hira o kirikiri roa pōla, e mihi ana ki ngā kauni hira nei, e whāriki ngā kaupapa o te wā, e mihi ana ki te katoa, tēnei te mihi atu. E te kaihanga o te rangi me te whenua, koe rei mātou e whakawhetai ana kia koe po koe. Te kaihanga e pohuru te I tamanga te wei te tapu. Reira o manaki kia mātou e hiko e ana I rui te whenua nei, e pupuru ana ki o kōrero, ki o tongikura, I whāreki hia. I ngā tūpana, I ngā wā o mua, tai atu ki tēnei wā. No reira e te kaihanga, ki te hunga ko whetu rangi tia hoki, koro hai tia rātou, I nongi te aroha, te hoki wei ana ki tō kai. Kia koutou ngā ihi, ngā mana, ngā wihi te tapu, hara mai whareki hia o koutou kaupapa I nui te aroha o te manu kāhui, me ngā memo o te kaunihira. Kia tūtuki ngā wawata toto I tō koutou ngākau. I ki he kokona whare ka kitea, kokona ngākau e kore e kitea. Ki te kōrero te tangata ka mohi o te ahu o taua whare. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, kaheke.
Thank you, Tame, as usual, for the beautiful way that you put the korowai over our proceedings today. Very fitting with the topic that is on the agenda today, and we are going to cut straight to business on this one. And invite the public speakers, noting there's a recommendation with Amy, and it may be more. I will call for more recommendations shortly. So we're going to go into the public part of our meet. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to do a few things first. Forgot. Apologies. We have apologies in place from Councillor Casey Cox. Oh, she is here with us right now, but she's the other side of the world, and so we really appreciate. It's not always easy to hook in from the other side of the world, right? But here she is, doing her best to stay with us for the whole time, but knowing that, you know, when you're trying to communicate from the other side of the world, it's difficult. So thank you, Anna. We've got partial apologies, partial attendance I've got. This may have changed from Councillor Donovan.
Down further.
Where has it changed?
The bottom line.
Oh.
There's no apologies.
No apologies. No apologies anymore. Good, excellent. No, there you go. I was just about to go there. No apologies. He was coming online. We haven't received any apologies from Moko for this, though I will note we had an apology for him for Finance and Monitoring Committee because he's in Tamaki Makaurau for Tangi. So it could be that his apologies extend to this afternoon. We haven't received any. Confirmation of agenda is as moved. I'll have a mover. Councillor.
Sorry, just got a question on that particular item.
On apologies?
On the confirmation of the agenda.
Okay, cool. Confirmation of agenda, it's circulated as it is.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask whether or not you would give consideration to extending speaking time from 2 minutes to 3 minutes, given the gravity of the issue.
I don't personally see there being an issue of that in a high public interest debate. If there is anybody who feels strongly about constraining the time to the 2 minutes. No, otherwise I'm quite happy to accept that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda. It's been moved by Councillor Max, I thought, and seconded by Councillor Kish. Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest in this matter? There being none, we will now go into the public forum. And we have listed 3 members of the public who would like to speak, and then 2 of our partners as well, our stakeholder partnerships. So we'll go through the individuals first and then into the organisational ones. So first up is Danielle Marks. Kia ora. Welcome.
Is it on?
It is
now.
now,
It's
yep.
on. O tēnā tātou katoa, i te tuatahi nei rata mihi ki a koe matua i tūwhira tēnei hui. Ko wai au, ko Danielle Marks, tōku ingoa, he mokopuna au o te aroa tū wharetoa Fiji Tonga Hoki. I live in Kirikiriroa and am in support of ensuring our Māori wards stay, and it goes to referendum. I followed this haerenga for the Kirikiriroa Māori ward since 2021. I want to particularly mihi to Whaia Maxine in particular, a true tangata tiriti who drew the line in the sand at the April 2021 hui, making sure Council didn't just consider whether or not to establish a Māori ward in accordance with He Pou Manawa order, but actually have it on the table. Yourself and Matua Martin Gallagher have been pou in this space, and I appreciate your initiative in putting forward that motion. I look forward to many more tangata tiriti being outwardly supportive and engaging in Māori wards and kaupapa Māori. I wanted to kōrero about my time as a candidate for our Māori ward over the past 3 months, and my time advocating for progressive outcomes in local government decisions over the past few years. Having engaged since 2019 with local government, I have seen my fair share of candidate events. I can honestly say that between the general role events and Māori role events, there's a huge disparity in who turns out, and we have seen that with voter turnout. I barely ever saw rangatahi Māori turn up to candidate events before Māori wards, yet when we had an event with Te Ahurutanga, a Māori leadership program at Te Whare Wānanga o Waikato, who hosted us, we saw so many rangatahi interested in us as candidates and what happens in local government. Well, we elect people who mirror our ideals, and the introduction of Māori wards have definitely seen more uptake in local government engagement for Māori. Even in a by-election, we saw an increase in Māori candidates than 2022, which speaks to the need and want for more representation on council, and especially in the context of an onslaught and degradation of Indigenous rights nationally. Māori wards are so important for us to see ourselves in this chamber because we haven't for a really long time. If this does go to a referendum, which I hope it does, I hope you as councillors and council staff engage the public effectively to increase awareness of the positive impact Māori wards have had for democracy and the perspective and mātauranga that our Māori councillors bring. Kia ora.
Thank you, Danielle. Do we have a leader here? Molly?
No, and I'm their mother and I'm not really wanting to speak. So, they're not present, sorry, they're down in Kanua.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting us know. Javaya?
Kia ora. Okay. I ngā mana, i ngā reo, i ngā mana o te iwi Māori, i ngā ngākau o ngā mokopuna, i ngā kōrero tuku iho, tēnā koutou katoa. He mokopuna hau no Ngāti Haua, rawa ko Ngāti Koro ki Kahukura. Kei te mahi a hau ki Seed Waikato, ko Javea Whiki tōku ingoa. Seed Waikato has played a prevalent part in engaging in local politics. I remember the first time in 2021 when the establishment of the Māori wards got introduced. We went along to a lot of the different political events. In one of them, I remember so clearly meeting Moko for the first time. It was at that hui that, as someone who sits on the Māori ward, I got to connect with the Māori ward councillor for the first time. I felt really wanga because I didn't know much about the Māori wards, but in getting to know Moko, he definitely increased my confidence and my mana within my rangatiratanga, in Seed Waikato and in the community. I was able to meet with Moko, develop a relationship and learn more about tikanga Māori and connect with my culture, as well as learn strategic things and hear about what's going on in council too. Throughout this haringa as well, I've been so blessed and inspired to meet Maria too, who has been such a strong mana wahine in her kōrero and the way in which she shows up for herself, her whānau, her iwi. And I think that's radiated on me, so tēnā koe for your leadership. It is through these examples that I feel courageous in standing here today, alongside my team members to advocate in support of the Māori ward seats, and knowing what leadership it has enabled me to see visibly in the community and within ngā iwi Māori katoa.
Ko whai haka here o Seed Waikato, ko Tanya Poynton toko ingoa. Seed Waikato's main priority and strategic goal is to work in meaningful relationship with mana whenua. An opportunity, a practical opportunity, came about a couple of years ago when Seed Waikato had the opportunity to open a vibrant hub where business and community could meet and connect. Right from the beginning, when we met Moko, he held and guided us in such a deep and meaningful way that I'll never forget. We developed relationships that will last forever. His connections, his guidance, and the way he held us has really impacted so strongly on the success of Hive 11. And I'm so grateful for this. Having felt the direct benefit of having Māori, rangatiratanga Māori in council has certainly strengthened the cohesion of our community, and Seed Waikato is a strong advocate for this to continue.
Kia ora, ko Maia toku ingoa. As a new rangatahi Māori in Seed Waikato, seeing the mahi of the Māori wards has increased my interests and understanding in local politics. So I feel confident to stand here today in support of this kaupapa.
Kia ora. Aha ko he iti he pounamu. Ko mātou ko Seed Waikato I tautoko ana I ngā tūru Māori.
Seed Waikato supports the Māori seats.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, all of you. I would now like to invite up Linda on behalf of Waikato Tainui. I notice Parekawhia is also here. If you want to join at the front, you're welcome. Good afternoon.
Kai kaunihira o Kirikiriroa, tēnā koutou katoa. E pai nei, e te pāpā tame, nā hau tā tātou hui whakarewa, tēnā koe e te pāpā. Kanui te mihi ki a tātou katoa, koe hui hui mai nei, tēnā tātou katoa. E whakahonori ana hau kingi Māori, kingi tūheitia pōtatau te whirowhiro te tuawhitu, e noho mai rā I runga I te ahurewa tapu o na mātua tūpuna, kia ora te whare kāhui ariki. Tēnā koutou, ko Linda Te Aho tōku ingoa. My name is Linda Te Aho. I'm a member of Te Ara Taura, the executive body of Waikato Tainui, and it is in this capacity that I am here presenting today. And I'd like to also support the submissions that I've heard earlier, and also those of mana whenua who have submitted both in writing and may also have submitted oral submissions. Waikato Tainui strongly supports the retention of Māori wards on local council, and this has been our consistent position in our joint management committee meetings for many years and moving forward. Māori wards provide an iwi Māori voice at a decision-making table where we have significant interests from a cultural, social and commercial perspective. Iwi Māori perspectives and ideas at the council table strengthens local decision-making. The reality is that democracy works best when everyone participates, and Māori wards enables this to happen. Therefore, we acknowledge the leadership of this council to establish Māori wards in 2022. We're proud that councillors Tawariki and Huata sit at this table, along with Māngai Māori, Jadine Kana, Norm Hill and Oli Teua. Māori wards provide us with an avenue to contribute to local democracy in a meaningful way, consistent with our Te Tiriti o Waitangi responsibilities. They offer a tangible opportunity to restore our faith in local democracy. Māori wards provide us with the benefit of direct representation in local government in the context of historical underrepresentation of Māori in civic life and local decision-making. Waikato Tainui submitted in opposition to the Local Government Amendment Act 2024, which undermines the decision we made together in 2022 and will make wards harder to establish in the future. Waikato Tainui also recently participated as a claimant in the Waitangi Tribunal Māori Wards Inquiry. It's very rare for the tribunal to grant urgency, but it granted urgency in this case. And we endorse the finding and recommendations of the tribunal, which found that the government's policy on Māori wards, now enacted into legislation via the Act, breaches Te Tiriti o Waitangi and its principles. Waikato Tainui also made strong submissions against the bill at the Select Committee. I just want to dwell on the point of the Waitangi Tribunal because it is an independent body of experts, both Māori and non-Māori, who granted urgency in this case and made findings that included the following: that the amendments to the Act are likely to result in a significant decrease in Māori representation and participation in local government as a direct consequence of the proposed amendment. The reimposition of polls is likely to act as a significant barrier and disincentive to future Māori representation in local government, as well as participation in local government processes. The tribunal also found that significant and irreversible prejudice could result from this legislation. For those reasons, and that's from an independent permanent commission of inquiry whose mandate is to hold the Crown to account in relation to its obligations under Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Councils that take a strong stance now will send a clear message to their community that Māori wards are important for equity, equality and representation. Waikato District Council and Waipa District Council have recently resolved to take this course, and we applaud the leadership of Mayors Jackie Church and Susan O'Regan and their fellow councillors. And we also acknowledge that there are a number of councils across the motu who are taking leadership positions, such as Palmerston North, New Plymouth and Hastings, in voting to retain the wards, and also Gisborne. While the Waikato Tainui relationship with the Hamilton City Council has recently been productive, honest and mutually respectful, that has not always been the case. It remains a work in progress for both of us, and Māori wards are an important contributor to that progress being continued. Before I draw this to a conclusion, last week we celebrated the annual koroneihana, or coronation, of King Tuheitia, including welcoming the Prime Minister and senior leaders of political parties to Tūranga Waiwai. One of the many highlights of the King's speech and the challenges he presents to the leaders of this nation, including all of us here today, is his call for kotahitanga, or unity, having a vision of prosperity for our future generations and learning to work together with others is worthy of pursuit. For these reasons, and for those of the others who have submitted this morning, Waikato Tainui urges you and advocates strongly for you to vote in favour of retaining Māori wards, and we will advocate strongly in the polls that will follow. Nō reira, e rauranga tira mā, tēnā koutou, pai marire ki a tātou katoa.
Thank you, Linda, on behalf of Waikato Tainui. for that very clear submission. And can we just pay our respects to Kingi Tuheitia, who I know is undergoing some health challenges at the moment, and as a council we wish him a very speedy recovery to what he's going through. Okay, the last speaker that I have on my list, but I will check that that is the case, is Ole Te Ua on behalf of Te Runanga o Kirikiriroa, and also as a voice for Māngai Māori.
Tēnā tātou e te whare, mihi atu kia koe te rangisira mea pōle te taumato no mai. Noho mai nei, tēnā koutou, te pāpatami, mihi atu kia koe nā hau e huaki na tatau, mō tātou mu tēnei hui. Waikato tāne, mihi atu kia koutou, nā mano te whenua mātou, koutou nā mātou wake manaaki, tēnā koutou. I'd like to pass on the apologies of the Chief Executive of the Runanga, Andrea Elliott-Hohepa. She has a pre-planned event today and can't be here, but I have her words which I will now read out on her behalf. Māori representation is a well-worn topic that has been discussed many, many times in these chambers. In fact, in 2005, Hamilton City Council resolved not to have Māori wards. 3 years later, 2008, the board of Te Runanga o Kirikiriroa, under the leadership and guidance of former chairperson, the late Matiu Dickinson, took a claim to the Waitangi Tribunal in respect of local government issues. In the relief sought section of the statement of claim, it recommended that the Minister of Local Government establish Māori wards. In 2018, 5 Māngai Māori were introduced to council representing iwi and Mātāwaka. Following a review, this number was reduced to 3. Throughout this time, Māngai have provided important strategic advice on the community and natural environment, infrastructure and transport, economic development, finance and strategic growth and development committees. In 2022, we saw the appointment of the first 2 Māori ward councillors for the city, and only a few short weeks ago, we saw Councillor Huata sworn in at these chambers. We believe Hamilton City Council, and therefore the city at large, has benefited from Māori intelligence, knowledge, perspective and understanding around the council table. Rather than lessening the impact, Māori representation has only enhanced and strengthened decision making. The latest local government electoral legislation of Māori wards and Māori constituencies Amendment Act 2024 seeks to give with one hand, that is, the ability to retain Māori wards whilst making it harder to hold on to that provision via a binding poll that is inconsistent and therefore inequitable. Fortunately, we are no stranger to working hard and will continue to encourage and support Council around robust decision making. We support recommendation B of staff recommendations to Council, that is the retention of the Kirikiriroa Māori ward. On behalf of the Māngai, and apologies from Jadine, who has another governance commitment, and of Norm, who is at an international sporting event somewhere in the world, and by the looks of Facebook's having a great time. But their apologies. Our presentation is that it's like being a vegetarian and you're really hungry, and you've been given an offering of a beef dish and a pork dish, and you know you have to eat one, but both will make you feel unwell. Kia ora mai tātou.
Kia ora, Ollie. Thank you very much. We're now going into the recommendations and questions of that and the debate. There is a recommendation up from myself and Deputy Mayor O'Leary. Is there another?
Yes, Ms. Southgate. I'm moving C, and my seconder is Councillor Bitter. Oh, so on the original one, it is option C,
Right.
2C.
Right. Okay, cool. Okay. That is it in terms of amendments, motions. Just want to make sure, keep it clean.
Your Worship,
Yep.
could I just give notice that I would like to be able to move a motion after this discussion that would essentially seek to open up other matters for consideration at a later date, but related to representation review, please.
Is that within scope? We can do that today? I guess it can. Let me just check on that, but let's hold that and get advice, governance advice, rather than put it on the spot. I'm not saying no, I'm just
and I
holding
appreciate
that
it may
space.
not be possible today.
Okay. Thank you. So this is, We go through the amendment set first, which is the Taylor bidder, which is a resolution to disestablish the Māori wards, as you see there. I think we could contemporaneously do the debate on both. Yes? Everyone happy with that? Okay. So rather than having a debate on this and redoing it all over again, are there any questions of the movers of either that we need full clarity? Not for politics, but clarity. Yeah. Yes, please.
I'm so sorry. I was just wondering if staff could speak to the legality of providing the poll. So advice has been given to us, but I think it's just worth putting it in the public forum around whether or not we can choose to reaffirm Māori wards and choose to not have the poll. I was just wondering if you could discuss that.
Thank you, Councillor Hutt. The short answer is the legislation requires you to hold the poll. If you select option 1, which is B in the staff recommendations, the consequences of refusing to hold a poll, I'm not a constitutional lawyer. You would likely attract the attention of central government, who I would hazard would not be impressed with such a move, and then I think that we would be looking for further advice on the effect of such a decision on the representation arrangements and whether the election in 2025 could be challenged on the basis that we haven't complied with everything that is set out in the Local Electoral Act.
Because it's not us that technically runs the election, it's the local electoral officer.
That's correct. So you appoint an electoral officer, and that office has the responsibility of running the elections and any poll that they are directed to run as part of that election process. So there is I suppose the election process, quite rightly, is at arm's length of the governance wing of council to some extent.
And so the very immediate and tangible consequences of not holding a poll would come back to the local electoral officer rather than onto council?
No, that would definitely come back to council.
Okay.
Because it's what the question would be around your compliance with the legislation.
But there's also a possible fine for not adhering to...
I would have to double check the Act and come back to you on that one.
Okay.
Thank you for your question. Any further questions? No, being none, we will go, remembering that we put the amendment, which is Councillor Taylor and Councillor Bidders first for vote, but we are going to debate them at once. So you go first, Councillor Taylor, and then I will go as the mover of the other one. And then, no, I go first because I get to write a reply if I need it. Let's hope I don't. No, thank you. No, but thanks for offer. Always, I'm sure. There it is. Today's debate, in my opinion, shouldn't be about whether or not we have Māori wards. Rather, it should be on preserving the democratic process that empowers citizens. Although I have and always will be a strong supporter of democracy. The establishment of Māori wards, I note, at Hamilton City Council did occur after comprehensive public engagement already with the public. Comprehensive. So what is clear in my view is that within the legal boundaries that we're set, we need to allow the public, as per the law, to have some opinion on the future local decision making. But, and this is where I get to my personal view, 25.4% of Hamilton's population are Māori. And there is no doubt in my mind that the establishment of Māori wards and māngai has ensured that unique perspectives and the needs of tangata whenua are better represented in council decision-making processes. That's what I have observed from my direct experience over many years. It is about ensuring that council's decisions reflect the diverse needs of our community. I do believe Māori wards help us to understand Te Ao Māori, and we can work better together to ensure economic and social outcomes for the community. My personal experience, as I've said, is that Māori representation has and does and will add value. That these wards have had a positive impact on the community. We've just heard that. We've heard it directly from Māori communities, how empowering it has been for them to be represented. I support, look, I'm not very happy at being in this situation as a council. At this time when we've got so many big issues we could be working together on, we are being forced into division and debate over this. And I'd rather that was not so, and that we just got on with working together in partnership and did good business. I'm profoundly proud that as a community we have 160 different ethnicities contributing to our community. This is great because it adds the diversity, and we uphold inclusion and diversity as core values as our organisation. We've heard mentioned today kotahitanga, and it's a powerful concept because it talks about working as one. We are not, however, in Hamilton or anywhere else in New Zealand, one people. We are many people, and we have one tangata whenua, which is Māori. It is about working together as one, unity, not division. Thank you. Jeff.
Southgate. I'll be supporting disestablishing Māori wards and noting that we have 3 Māngai Māori in place. Look, it's a delicate subject. I have no wish to upset colleagues around the table who I respect. Then again, this is the place for these sorts of discussions, as uncomfortable as they may be. Last term, I actually supported the introduction of Māori wards, and I did it in the spirit of bringing us together. I didn't really believe in the principle of special wards based on race, but I wanted to come halfway. Because I do come from a different point of view. I come from a point of view of I love ambition. And I struggle, and always have done, with the message we are sending young Māori go-getters, not activists, talented high performers nonetheless. We don't expect you to make it on your own in this post-colonial world, so we've set up a different process for you. I think that's deflating. I think back to my daughter graduating at a high school, and all her friends, her Māori and Pacifica friends, confident, ebullient, determined to take on the world. And I don't think they would have a bar of being put in a nice little box and saying this is what you can aspire to. They believed they could compete on their own terms. They were going to take on the world. I believe inherently all people are the same. They have the same amazing potential, especially if they're encouraged to believe in themselves and look forward and not back. So despite that, I supported Māori wards in that spirit. But when I look around the country at the moment, I'm not seeing that spirit. And I ask myself what's happened to it, because it seems to me that we as a country, we can't even have this conversation without it deteriorating. I see media hysteria, I see abuse, I see name calling, I see anyone suggesting an alternative viewpoint being shouted down and being branded as racist. And I feel that we've overdosed on identity politics as a country. I think we've stopped seeing people as people, but instead we want to break them down into racial groups and gender groups. And I just think we need to go back to celebrating common humanity that unites all people and treats them on their merits, whatever their colour. Otherwise, I fear we're going to become mired in racial grievance. And I feel we are descending further and further away from the principle of all being equal under the law. And I don't think it'll work. I think it's a fantasy to think that we can move forward as a democratic country by treating people differently according to who their ancestors are. I've never seen that work anywhere in the world. And I think if you depart too far from democratic principles like that, we are heading in a destructive direction. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to play any part in that type of decision making anymore.
Thank you. Any other debaters, please? Councillor Bidder.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. The Local Government Act, Section 4, is the Treaty of Waitangi clause in that, which leads to Section 77, where councils must already take into account Maori culture and traditions, and also Section 81, where we must provide opportunities for Maori to contribute to the decision-making process. The council actually has a long history of doing just this. Back in 1972, Mayor Mike Minogue worked with Kiwa Graham to establish Kirikiriroa Marae as a centre for urban Maori with a central voice. Mayor Ross Jansen in the 1980s worked with Ngāti Wairere and the Kingitanga. In 1988, Te Runanga o Kirikiriroa was set up with partial funding from Hamilton City Council. In the 1990s, Mayor Margaret Evans worked with Arakanui Tainui Group Holdings, Hari Puki and Ngā Haumi. In 2002, we had Thork and Trock. In 2018, Mayor Andrew King brought in Mangai Māori. We've done a lot. We certainly could do more. But the elephant in the room is that this by-election had a turnout of 14%. That's not working. We have to consider that Maori wards have not produced the voice that all of us, Maori and Pākehā, need. If we take away Maori wards, we can take the time to present a better option for a local referendum on a system that works better for local Maori and all local citizens. I would like to take that time. I would like to have the discussion. I'd like to have the involvement of the people in a better result. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to Maxine, and then I do see some people online, so bear with me. And just to note to the audience that Councillor Moko has been with us for the entire time by Zoom. He came on just after the apologies were noted, so he has been here entirely. Let's go to Councillor Maxine.
Kia ora and thank you. It'll come as no surprise to you that I speak in support of the motion and of the importance of retaining Kirikiriroa Māori ward. A decision, as Mayor Paula rightly says, that was overwhelmingly supported by this council, unanimously, and by community through the previous consultation that we've had. And that was as the ward was being introduced, but also before that in the He Po Manawa Order consultation as well, under the pall of representation. Yet here we are, forced into a situation where we must choose between disestablishing this ward or funding a binding poll, both of which seem to undermine the progress that we've already made. Have our values changed? Mine certainly have not. And I thank you, Danielle, for the acknowledgement today. And we must continue to live with kotahitanga, principle of unity and trust. Division and polarising debates only serve to take us backwards, back to a time when Māori representation and decision-making was sorely lacking. A referendum which is based on the majority is inherently unfair when Māori are the minority in Hamilton. Let's look at progress that New Zealand has made from 3 to 49 councils with Māori wards, and that's thanks to the removal of the threat of those referendum. Introducing those barriers again is a retrograde step that serves neither council's relationships with iwi or our wider community. Linda, I heard what you said about democracy. It thrives on participation, and Māori participation in local government is essential. But it needs time to build and processes by which to grow. Retaining the Māori ward is not just about representation, it's about justice, fairness, and moving forward together as a community. I will support the motion to keep the Kirikiriroa Māori ward for the 2025 election and for funding that binding poll at that time. But I will be joining Tukurangi Morgan, Linda Te Aho, Carolyn, Kirsty and her organisation, Councillor Moko, Councillor Maria, in their campaign to retain the ward, advocating for informed choice based on truth and facts before electors go to the poll. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now move to Councillor Casey Cox.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you to the speakers earlier in the public forum. And sorry I can't be with you in person today. But I support the retention of Māori wards and will be in support of Mayor Paula's motion. My reflection today is from my own understanding of relationships. What I see, colonisation and the dominance of Western culture the world over is a brutal reality, and it's not the basis of a just society. On the other hand, Te Tiriti is the basis of a just society, and for our own good, we should never be in breach of it. So kia ora, Linda, for that, bringing that to our attention. Te Tiriti is not just an agreement between Māori and Pākehā, it's an agreement that stands for all of Aotearoa, and it's the promises in Te Tiriti that are the most important. The promises of self-determination, good governance, equity and diversity. And from my perspective, Māori wards are part of that promise, and we must hold on to that promise. Our Māori ward councillors and our Māngai Māori have been and will continue to be wonderful contributors. Te Ao Māori is unique and special, and Pākehā, who often don't know who they are culturally, and I say that as a Pākehā, are most fortunate, more fortunate than we realise, to have the strength of Māori in our country and in our chambers. What I find for myself is that a strong culture who knows its values calls me up to know who I am and what my values are, and that's powerful. Moko has done some great work calling for kotahitanga and working with Ewan and others, and this work for unity is not new, and it's been led by his ancestors, including Wiremu Tamihana. This standing for peace and unity has had influence the world over and in the USA where I am today, and with such leaders as Martin Luther King. When we stand for unity and peace, it is always the best stand we could make, and it changes things. So thank you, Moko, and all the people who stand for this. I support unity, the promise of Te Tiriti and Māori wards. Kia ora.
Councillor Tauriki.
A katahuri nei au ki taku karanga whaia, ia goli, kua riro ana e ia ki te rangi, ki tēnei rangi tonu nei. Koe mai rā, takato pai rā. Anō ki a rātou tahi anō ngā tini whānaunga, a rātou tahi anō iwi Māori, tangata tiriti roto anō i te whare rā, tēnā koutou ka toa toa. Hey, while it's easy for me to be upset about this whole thing, that's not going to actually help with the cause of what our tupuna before me have done to ensure that there is a place at the table, at the decision-making table, for people like myself and Maria to have a meaningful way of participating in decision-making. I reflect on the examples of my tupuna, Wiremu Tamihana, te whiti o rongo mai, tohu kākahi, utua te kino ki te pai. Utua te kino ki te pai. We will smash evil with good. I see greater benefits in bringing my colleagues from across the chamber into my space, into our space, and not necessarily reflecting on our differences, but looking and reflecting on what do we have in common. Because I believe it's those things that we have in common that are going to get us across the line. Those things that we have in common for the greater good of our city. As I sit here, I represent a constituency of largely people who have not had the opportunity to come and sit at this table. And I believe that through unifying ourselves as examples for our ratepayers, for our community, I'd like to hope that this type of debate that we are having today is not something that we need to have in the future. I do want to acknowledge my colleague, Ewan Wilson, in the whare. And it took some bravery for both of us to sit down and have a very mature discussion about this kaupapa. Given that some of our views are entirely different at times. But we do have a lot more in common than I believe. And I want to acknowledge Ewan, Mark, and those fellow councillors in the chamber that are prepared to work with us around what a more unified council in the future can look like. I acknowledge the mahi that our Mātā Waka whānau have been doing. Those organisations that I've been canvassing over the last couple of months so that they can activate our whānau, not for today, but to activate our whānau for the mahi that lies ahead of us this time next year. And so e te iwi today is just the beginning of the mahi that we need to do in the next 12 months. I acknowledge Tauri Kura and the great mahi that Kawe and Kirsty are doing, and I lean deeply into those strategies. I appreciate and acknowledge the mahi of Waikato Tainui, the mahi that...
Oh, sorry, Moko, just sorry, but you are well over time and I got carried away looking at you on the screen. So could you wrap your... So compelling that you were. So could you wrap up, please?
Yeah. I guess I'll be supporting the motion for the poll and to retain Māori wards. Kia ora tātou.
Thank you, and sorry to all other councillors. I try to be fair on time, but sometimes it's just the allure of the screen drags you in there.
You mean the allure of Councillor Tawari?
Oh, yes. He was like a magnet. All right. Deputy Mayor.
I thought we said we were having 5 minutes.
3.
Oh, okay.
3.
Hui a te tangata ki te atua, hui a te tangata ki te kingi Māori, hui a te tangata ki te kaupapa o te pō, e te huinga tangata tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I can't be more eloquent than some of my colleagues on the first part of this motion and on this decision to support going out for a referendum on Māori wards than some of my colleagues. I will say, however, that when a motion states that Council affirms the retention of the Kirikiriroa Māori wards, that comes with a cost. We don't have a choice. We have to go out for referendum next October. This is the hand we've been dealt with and the only option on the table that is viable today. We've had some discussion on the recent by-election, and I nod to Councillor Huata, and I look forward to her kōrero in a few minutes. We've heard firsthand from that campaign that we could have done better to enable those on the Māori roll to vote in this recent by-election. And we heard that over the past few days, so that's why C has been added to this motion and what I'm focusing on in my debate. C has been included to ask staff to address this as an issue, not just for the referendum next October, but for also the dismal low voter turnout that we've had in the general ward for over a decade. I've seen over my time in this council how poorly a referendum can be communicated to the public. So that concerns me and why C has been added to this motion. I'm reminded of just how critical communicating the reason for this poll next October will be, because the government has mandated it to be a binding poll. I've also included that the staff will come back with a full communications plan on the election as well as the poll, as well as including what a wider program of walked up voting sites will be. Because we learnt through the Kirikiriroa Māori Ward by-election recently that we could have done better for walking up voting sites. We must not have any barrier in October for the poll or the vote. Our role will be to communicate with clarity what our constituents are being asked, and also I remind the Chamber to exhibit during that whole process an open mind. Ngā mihi nui.
Councillor Pike.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. I just want to start by thanking the passionate speakers in the public forum today and the people in the gallery here to give their voice and steer in what is a very important decision today. Today I am speaking in favour of the motion retaining the Kirikiriroa Māori Ward and holding a binding poll during the 2025 elections. In 2021, following an extensive consultation with our community, we overwhelmingly supported the establishment of Kirikiriroa Māori wards with an 80% backing. This was an important step forward towards an inclusive and representative local governance. This decision wasn't just symbolic, it has led to real, tangible progress. Since then, Councillor Moko Tauriki and former Councillor Milena Hauaki, alongside our mangai, Jadine, Ollie and Norm, who all bring with them their own personal strength and a deep commitment to our community. In this, they have played a crucial role in facilitating meaningful discussions that have brought our community together. Their leadership has been instrumental in strengthening relationships between our people and the council and ensuring that decisions reflect a wider range of voices and perspectives which benefit everyone in Kirikiriroa. I'm also confident that our newly appointed Councillor Maria Hoata will continue this vital work, and I'm confident that our collective involvement will help us build on the progress we've made, ensuring that we continue to move forward in a way that is inclusive and equitable for all. Holding a binding poll in 2025 offers our community a chance to reflect on this progress and to reaffirm their support for Kirikiriroa Māori wards. It's an opportunity to solidify the gains that we've made and to ensure that Hamilton remains a city where every voice is heard and valued. It's disappointing that we've been landed in this position today. However, we must make this decision. So let's honour the strong will of our community from 2021, recognise the progress that we've achieved, and give our residents the chance to support the Māori ward once again. Together, we can continue to build a more inclusive and representative Hamilton and be all better off for it. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Councillor McIndoe.
Your Worship, tēnā tātou katoa, ngā mihi nui kia koutou. As a result of my notice of motion about 3 months ago requesting a special representation review to consider changing several aspects of our governance arrangements, it's a matter of public record that I'm opposed to all separate wards in Hamilton City. I firmly believe in all eligible voters being able to choose all who will represent them and decide how their rates are spent. Although my motion was narrowly defeated in May, I received considerable support for it from Hamilton residents and ratepayers, and I continue to believe that the only truly democratic election is one in which all eligible voters are entitled to choose from all candidates standing for office. While I understand some of the arguments for Maori wards, and I respect both of our current Maori ward councillors, welcome Maria, and our Mangai Maori representatives, who I think are impressive contributors to our discussions, I don't believe that it's democratic for the balance of decision-making to be held by councillors who can only be elected by a small percentage of our city's residents. Conversely, I believe that our current arrangements discriminate against voters on the Maori roll, because they are only to choose 3 of the 15 people who make decisions in this chamber about how their rates are spent and other important decisions that affect them. I firmly believe that all Maori voters should be able to choose all of us, not just 1/5 of us, and that all other voters should be able to choose all of us as well. But even those who are on the general roll cannot even choose half of us under current arrangements. So I will continue pushing for full democracy for our city. However, I also acknowledge that the current Maori ward arrangements arose from public consultation during a representation review, and therefore it is appropriate for us to refer the matter back to those same residents of our city for them either to reaffirm or rescind that decision. During the Local Government New Zealand conference, which I attended last week, there was an interesting panel discussion on questions of local government structure, which included Baden Barber, chair of Ngāti Kahungunu Iwi Incorporated. I don't want to put words in his mouth because I'm not sure of his specific view on Maori wards, but he did observe that Maori are far more involved in local government than was the case even a decade ago, and he was confident that that would remain the case regardless of decisions councils around the country make on this matter. That, of course, differs from the opinion which we heard with respect from Professor Linda Ta'aho earlier. I hope he's right, and I believe he's right. Maori are being chosen on merit and increasing numbers by all parties and gaining election in general seats in our general elections. I think that will flow through to our local government as well. It's a great development. Long may it continue. So I will be continuing to push at the next opportunity, the opportunity to widen the scope. I don't believe that this issue should be being considered in isolation, but the legislation requires that of us. I want to open up a whole range of governance matters for the people to decide across the board, Maori, Pākehā, all other races. Kia ora tātou.
Councillor Huata.
Kei ngā kurangatira hinei tini kia koutou katoa, kia aroha mai mo taku tuara. Ringa ora te taonga nui, ko te rauaroha nui, te reo karanga i ngō te rangi. Puaroha taku ngā kau, puaroha taku ngā kau. Ringa hora te taonga nui, ka nui te aroha. That short ditty was composed for my grandmother, Heni Ngākai Ibao Tomoana Huata, who married mai korauwa, te Kenana Canon Wī Te Tau Huata, the Padre for the 28th Māori Battalion. That ditty was composed by her father, my great-grandfather, Paraire Hinare Tomoana, who alongside with his good friend, Tāpirana Ngata, also my great-grandfather on my mother's side, and other key Māori figures of their time, Sir Maui Pomare, Te Rangi Hiroa, and others, established the Young Māori Party back in 1897 in response to the onslaught on Māori, the loss of whenua, land, and the continued decline of the population. This has continued through to this point, from the Land Wars of 1843, the New Zealand Constitution Act in 1852, who only allowed people that owned land to vote. And because Māori collectively owned land, they couldn't vote. The Native Land Act in 1862, another mechanism to confiscate whenua land. The New Zealand Settlements Act in 1863, another mechanism to confiscate land. The Native Schools Act in 1858, when the kingitanga was established, that was put into government to assimilate Māori into Pākehā, where they were physically beaten for speaking te reo Māori, and hence the severe loss of language. And you heard today from Seed Waikato, the reclamation of that culture and that language and identity today. It is still apparent, it is still relevant here in 2024. It continues with the Public Works Land Act in 1864, the taking of whenua for public works, and it was mostly Māori land, another mechanism for confiscation. The Representation Act in 1867, which did give 4 seats to Māori. However, the Parliament was created by this act and it was passed during a period of warfare to maintain kotahitanga between Māori and non-Māori, and was seen as a way to reduce conflict. However, the new seats gave Māori less representation in Parliament. That was 1867. Today's 2024, and we are still fighting for representation. I could go on and give you a whole plethora, but let us not go back to that day. I want to return to the waiata that my great-grandfather wrote about extending our hands, ringahora, in love. We welcomed you to our whenua, to our land, and we still welcome you today, and let us work together. Ko tahitanga, which has been a theme set by our King, Tu Heitia, and continued with our fellow councillors. And I want to acknowledge you, Councillor Tim McIndoe, for coming to me and sharing what your kōrero would be today, even though we metaphorically and physically sit across the other side of the table. Councillor Andrew, you can still have that marshmallow fish that I gave you, because that's what Māori did. We looked after, we manaki, we are tangata whenua, and that is our job, to welcome and look after our visitors, and we will continue to do so. I will support a poll for the Māori Wars. That's how I got here. Nā reira, I roto ngā kupu a te kingi tuatahi, in the words of our first Māori king, pōtatau te whero. Ko tahi te kōwhao te ngira e kuhunai te miro mā me te miro pango me te miro whero. Kia mau ki te aroha te ture me te whakapono. There is but one eye of the needle through which all threads pass. Let's hold on to love, law and truth.
Thank you very much. A little bit over time, but impassioned and on point. And we just have to go there today, so that's the way it is. I have Councillor Donovan for debate.
Paula, in the interest of time, I won't use my full 3 minutes, which will then credit Maria. So that's just the kind of giving sort of person that I am. I wasn't going to say anything, but I will say that I do support the motion on the table, first and foremost, so thank you. A poll is a democratic way, even though, you know, as we all agree, it's probably not ideal, but it's what's in front of us. I did write down quite a few notes over the last few days, and even earlier today too, and some of the things that have rung true with me are a little bit cliche, but I'm going to share them with you anyway. There was a famous American who said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I've just witnessed that in person by my good colleague Maria talking. So I think you say tautoko, is that what I say? Tautoko, excuse me. Close, yeah, we can work on that. But to add to that, pride, protection and people, those are the 3 Ps by which I think I set my own values on. And I expect those of all other people as well. So I love being part of a team and in a place where everyone pulls in the same direction, which leads to my next cliche. It comes from a book called Surf When You Can, and it's written by a guy called Brett Crozier. Now, surfing is the metaphor, because in it he says, pull like a Clydesdale. We are stronger when we work together. That's all I've got to say on the matter. Thank you.
Any further debate before we close off debate? Ewan?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Paula. I intend to support the motion that will see us go through to a referendum. Ultimately, it is because I and Council participated in a significant public engagement when we introduced Māori wards, and so it's only appropriate that we go back to the people and participate in a public poll to determine whether we retain them or remove them. I have to acknowledge my good friend, Councillor Muko, who has shown great leadership. And in fact, today with Councillor Huata, you can see they are both wonderful orators, and they make their presence felt. And I do think it shows that we have friendship and communication between all sides in this chamber. Although we may not necessarily always agree, there's always a desire to try to work together where we can. So I thank them for their leadership on this matter. I have heard some comments from elected members about the unfortunate position we now find ourselves in this arbitrary decision of central government. I have to, in the spirit of being equitable, remind those same elected members that during the other government, Labor, they also took some steps that actually removed, in some people's opinion, the democratic process of launching a referendum. So it's been a bit tit for tat, and it seems to be a little bit unfortunate that we are selective in our memory when it suits. However, we are now left with a significant challenge, and an unfortunate challenge, because I actually agree with Mayor Paula. We have more important things that we need to be focusing on as a nation and as a country, but we're dragged back into this debate. And my call to all parties is going to a referendum can be really brutal. It will be a prolonged 12 months, and there will be a lot of ugly argument on both sides. So I encourage Tainui particular to spend some time and focus on how they intend to advocate their position and the need for Māori wards going into what will be a very difficult poll. But finally, I have to say that I am frustrated that I am here yet again having to have this debate. And I look forward to the ultimate decision. But I have been swayed considerably by Councillor Tim recently, in this argument that maybe the best way forward is a single ward across the city that gets better representation. But the poll will help us iron out those arguments, and let's hear the debate, and then ultimately the people will make the decision.
Sorry, I nearly inhaled that. Any further debate? Oh, Councillor Hutt.
Thank you. There are some days in this chamber where our decisions seem small and of little consequence, and today is not at all one of those days. It's important to keep in mind the history of this institution because context is key to having an informed debate on this. I've previously heard comments in this chamber about this chamber that it's been full of Māori councillors over the years. So I did a little Google. Hamilton Borough Council was first elected in 1878. Our council existed for 144 years before Māori wards, and we elected 4 Māori. That's not full to me. Luke Rangi was first elected in 1962. Ratu Tibu, the second, 20 years later. Our first Wahine Māori councillor, Pirihia Kaio, in 1986. And then we had a 15-year gap till Margaret Forsyth in 2010. Since implementing Māori wards in 2022, we have nearly doubled the amount of Māori councillors who have sat in this chamber. Our 3 Māori ward councillors have graced us with their mana and their mātauranga, and we have made better decisions for it. Since the Naya Mahuta's amendment passed in 2022, we saw the highest number of Māori elected to local government ever in the history of this country. Māori are tangata whenua, and Te Tiriti o Waitangi is a legally binding document that asserts their rights. We owe Māori representation and autonomy within our systems of koanatanga. If you don't like the protected status of Māori, take it up with the Crown and the rangatira who signed it in 1840. I was at Koroneihana last week and we heard from Rahui Papa speaking on behalf of the Kingitanga that politicians come and go, but partnership with Māori is forever. Let's not spit in the face of that partnership because of what politicians currently sit in Wellington. We've already asked the public what they think. Our data from 2021 said 81% of submitters wanted Māori wards in Kirikiriroa Hamilton. But sure, let's have a poll. Let's waste hundreds of thousands of dollars. We don't have Prime Minister Luxon. This is not a core service. Marginalising and discriminating against Māori is not a core service of local government. Our neighbours, Waikato District, unanimously reaffirmed Māori wards. To the east, Matamata-Piako unanimously reaffirmed Māori wards. To the south, Waipa District, unanimously, bar one, reaffirmed Māori wards. I don't want us to be the embarrassing cousins of our region. Gisborne, Manawatu, Masterton, New Plymouth, Palmerston North, Stratford, Taranaki, Whakatane, Rotorua Lakes, Taupo, Whangarei just today, and Hawke's Bay have all reaffirmed Māori wards. I am furious we have to have this debate. I'm furious we even have to have a poll, but we have the opportunity today to be on the right side of history, and I would like to congratulate my colleagues for seeing the same future I do. One where we continue to value and uphold Te Tiriti and Māori in the city. Toi tū Te Tiriti.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. Kia ora koutou, thank you everyone who has come in today as well. I'm proud to be a part of a council that unanimously supported Māori wards last term. I believe Councillor Moko has added huge value, having had experience in a council with no Māori ward councillors and now in a council that does have Māori wards. And I've only known Councillor Hoata for maybe a week and a half or something, but already I'm really excited to be working alongside of her. Nearly a quarter of our population here in Kirikiriroa is Māori, and yet as Councillor Louise, through her excellent research, has shown, Māori have been severely underrepresented at this council table. It is really important that we do retain Māori wards, and I will be supporting the motion today. I do not believe this is about race relations. This is about treaty relations. This is about the relationship between Māori and the Crown under Te Tiriti, and as local government, we have a responsibility to uphold Te Tiriti. Māori wards proportionately reflect the number of people on the Māori roll. I believe that, and so the argument that this is in some way not a fair system, I believe, is wrong. And Māori can choose whether or not they're on the Māori roll. And also, I think it's condescending to say that we know what's best. Actually, we should be asking Māori whether they want the wards, and we've heard strongly from our partners that they do. I think it's also wrong to criticise the wards based on the turnout in the recent by-election. After less than one term, and we make a judgment already, I think that is far too early, and also given especially voter turnout in the general election, in the general election for the by-election for Councillor McIndoe was 22%. That's really poor. We cannot then say just because the turnout in the by-election was poor that somehow Māori wards are not working. Actually, we have to look at ourselves and ask, what have we really done to change turnout in our elections? Have we done everything we could have? No way. We've basically gone on doing the same old business as usual each election, despite the fact that postal voting is working less and less. More and more people are transient living in rentals. Half of our population lives in a rental. You move frequently, much more likely to just never get your voting paper. And
So I am supporting the second part of this motion as well. We need to make voting accessible. We need to be where people are. Let's put in a little more resource and actually do it properly. Let's be where people are, give them a genuine chance to vote, and then maybe in time when we've given a real effort to turning out people to vote, then we can judge. So, thank you.
Councillor Naidoo-Rofe.
Thank you. I wasn't planning to speak, but I don't want to be the last, the odd one out here. And the reason I didn't want to speak is because I was focusing more on the issue at hand today, which is essentially, do we go to a poll or not? And not, I didn't want to debate, the need for Māori wards or not, because I do believe, ask the people, go to a poll, and then we have a fuller discussion if we needed to. But I just wanted to highlight one thing, is that I've learned a lot in the last 5 years of being in council. Coming into this country, not born here, I've gone on my own journey in my education and learning about the history and the importance of the treaty and how it plays a role in both local and national government. I will be supporting the motion, to go to the poll. But I wanted to highlight in this room that almost a third of people who live in the city are not born here. People don't know, don't understand, and don't know the reasons of why Māori wards would be important, for Māori. And so I think that there is a wider discussion or scope for education, which if we don't address, we'll just end up in the same place, to be honest. So I'm just putting this out there that there's a lot of work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Naidoo-Rofe. Goodness. Can we put the motion up, and then I'm going to use my right of reply, but I'm going to keep that very short because I think I made my views reasonably well known. But I do want to just start by highlighting the second part of the motion, which is around exactly what a few people have spoken to, Angela, Louise, Sarah in particular, around improving the process. I will speak in defence of our staff team who work really hard, but the overall system of how to get people engaged in local government elections, or any kind of election, is fundamentally flawed, and that we would all accept. So we've got to do better. We've got to do better. Today, we're in a rock and a hard place. It's not ideal. This is putting the power back in the hands of the people. It's the option that we've been offered. However, I hope that we now have some time to increase the understanding of the value of Māori seats, and in so doing, increase the support over the next short period of time before the referendum. My personal view, as I stated again, is that I have seen the value capture of genuine partnership with Māori many, many times over, and I could give you a lot of examples, but I'm not going to give you a lot. But we're all very pleased when we get into an economic partnership with Waikato Tainui Commercial Group Holdings, and we can deliver benefits for mutually for all people from a Ruakura inland port, which is partnership. We are genuinely happy when we can partner with our Māori by understanding their needs around Te Taio in environmental restoration projects, of which they have a big hand. So there's much value to be gained from working, again, in partnership, kotahitanga, working together to unite for the outcomes that we can both share together and value together. I have always said, in the last debates and many debates we've had, that adding value to something does not remove value from anyone else. So you're adding value for all. It's a win-win. And I guess we're going to have some pretty pithy and brave conversations over the next period of time And I think it's up to us all to be brave in that conversation, not just Māori, but all of us to have those tough conversations, starting here in the chamber, radiating out into the community, and see where it takes us. So that's it. We'll go to the vote. Oh, on the amendment, so just for people in the audience, we put the amendment first, which is the Taylor Bidder. Yeah, the disestablishment, when one goes first. We've debated them all together, so there's no further debate. And then if that loses, we go to the substantive motion.
Councillor Huata. The amendment is lost. 2 for, 13 against.
Right, we now move to the substantive motion, which is the one that I moved with Deputy Mayor O'Leary, noting the good work that Moko and you and Wilson also did in getting ready for this. No, and Angela's good work on C. I think it's a good step forward. Let's go to the vote. Did I press it? I think I did.
The motion is carried, noting that Councillor Taylor is dissenting.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you to the members of the public who've participated in today through your attendance, through your speaking. We appreciate it. It's a work day, right? And we now ask Tame to come and to close this meeting in this beautiful spirit that he opened it. Oh, this you, Tame? Yeah?
I was going to do some training and bring someone forward, but I think he's going to do it once again. Tēnā koutou, tino whai ki te whakaroa ki ngā kōrero I hora nei I roto I tēnei kaunihera, I tēnei ahi ai. Ka miharo taku ngā kau, ka miharo taku ngā kau ki te ngā pōtitanga, mō te kaupapa kōrawa ahau ki o koutou nei whakaaro I whāreki hia. No reira e te atua kāroa, koe nei mātou e whakairi ngā ki te kōrero ki te pakitaro o te whare, hei ngā rākai kei te heke mai ka tiki nātu te kete, ka wānana I ngā kaupapa, hei paenga mō kirikiri roa. No reira, koro wai tia te kingi I roto I te taha hauora, kia piki ana te kaha o tana tīngana, ki te whānau e huitahi nei, mana ki tia rātou katoa. Koe nei mātou e whakawhetai ngi te ingoa tō mātou kai whakaora. Wā ke ake. Amen.
Thank you, everyone.